Episode 1. If you're born into an insane asylum, you don't know everyone is insane.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
Hold it. All right, here he is. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids, whomever I may have forgotten. Wow, it's the first episode time, and I had no fucking clue of what episode or what idea I was to present to you first. To kind of launch this show and move it forward. So therefore, I hope you forgive me for using such a provocative topic in that it's going to be contextually correct, but a little bit out of proportion. So without further ado, let me get into the details. So welcome to the first episode of the very best podcast in the world. There's a zeroist episode, which is basically an introduction and a brief introduction, whatever description of what the program is about. And if you're looking for a bit more context to the entirety of the program, please feel yourself referred to listen to that to give you a bit more background on the program. This episode is going to be about looking outside of your normal life's scope and how to do that, why to do that, and in a more broader sense, an example that I basically lived through, and where a person I met in my fourth or fifth life in my lifetime acted upon that and gave me very positive feedback. So let's get started. A lot of you are going to be limited by your surrounding. Some of you know about it, a lot of you don't. Just because the life you're in currently is insanely comfortable. And the same applies for me. In every one of my lives, which I kind of briefly referenced in the introductory episodes, I felt more than comfortable. It wasn't so much about adapting to anything, more than kind of developing your comfort zone in the life that you're in. And the question is, do you want to break out of your current life, or do you want to stay there? And if you want to stay there, do you really know that you want to stay there? Because there could be impulses that trigger you along the way, but you have to be exposed to those impulses. So let me get to a brief example to make it more graphic. I mentioned that my better half and I run a very successful Airbnb in the center of Germany. And we get guests pretty much from all over the world, starting with the United States, over Korea, over Malaysia, over the Netherlands, over France, over Iceland, over Denmark, over Sweden, whatever, been here. Had great conversations, great dinners, great exchanges of knowledge and experiences, and so on and so forth. And one experience, though, stood out significantly, and that was a family from the former Eastern Germany. I know we've been kind of unified over 3 decades ago, but there are still differences between the conception of what Germany is about And those differences are going to stay probably for another generation or two until they're actually weeded out entirely. And everything is, what it's supposed to be, unified, right? It takes some time to get rid of those differences. If you had a wall between two nations, shit just happens. They develop differently, yet you're still kind of brothers. So do some reading up if you're interested in that history. It would probably kill the time frame and the scope that we've got set up. Long story short, however, these differences lead to a lot of communities in the former Eastern Germany to still be kind of secluded and a bit more, how am I supposed to say this without sounding condescending, a little more less worldly, let's put it that way. So you get, as a kid, you get born there, you grow up there, you know that other places exist, but you seldomly go there because there's no real need. Your friends are at home, and other factors to kind of encourage complacency. And the same applies for Western towns and villages, like the one I grew up in. There's no real need to get the hell out of there, but you kind of do for different reasons. You go to study, etc., etc. Long story short, we had a family stay with us from the former East Germany, from a very small village, and I got into a conversation with the parents of which had two kids with them, and the daughter, who was the older one of the kids, was just finishing her studies in school, and had no fucking clue of what she was going to do with her life, because the friends she hung out with were kind of, living the dream of becoming a nurse, or working for the local fire brigade or department, or going to another German city to a university or college to get a degree there, etc. But nobody really took the, well, what do you want to call it, cosmopolitan approach, in that they were to do something wild, like get out of Germany for a year to see another part of the world and see how that functions, right? And during this conversation that I had with the parents, and the kids were present as well, about where I had lived and worked for the past decade, in all of the countries and all of the experiences and adventures I'd gone through, I saw the eyes of the daughter really start to light up, and she was really interested and started to make inquiries about what I've been through and whether there was a possibility for her to essentially do the same. That's the point. She was so locked in within her village and the structures therein that she didn't really contemplate the idea of leaving Germany to do whatever. It's not that you have to leave Germany. I'm not implying that. However, the experiences I've had abroad were so enlightening, being exposed to different cultures, different ways of working, understanding that the luxury you live in the Western world is nothing to take for granted, that other people in the world are not as gifted and live in shitholes and have to worry about whether or not they're going to have food on the table. These are all fears which a lot of us Westerners are not exposed to. And so we can't relate to these different styles of life, which are definitely out there. And this is, I think, the point which I wanted to make with the rather sarcastic title, is that a lot of us are so locked in, and that you don't actually see the outside world because you don't want to. And broadening your horizon and opening your eyes to the fact that there are less fortunate people in the world, who don't have $1,000 iPhone at their disposal to listen to podcasts or other modern smartphones because you're fucking worried about what's going to be for dinner on the table tonight. And those things for us are just gone. Now, on the other hand, of course, there's a positive outline that I've had many experiences and have been exposed to people you wouldn't believe how wealthy and how wealthy they were and in which luxurious circumstances they lived. That's a given. What it did do is it opened my eyes, and I hope that it will open this girl's eyes in that it's not the dream world everywhere. And I think this kind of puts into proportion and gives you a bit of humility towards the things that you take for granted. And you stop complaining about the enormous amounts of taxes you pay, for instance, and you pay them for a fucking reason. I pay shitloads of taxes in Germany, but still remain a citizen here. Because, for instance, I have a guarantee that there is an ambulance at my doorstep in 12 minutes or less if shit hits the fan, and that I do not have to worry about whether or not I'm going to have electricity tonight or tomorrow or on Thursday, or that it's ever going to fail, because it just fucking doesn't. The money that I pay in taxes, and I was one of the biggest complainers when I started my first business. I was like, God damn it, how am I going to avoid paying taxes? And every business person does. That's a given, of course. But pay your taxes, God damn it. It pays for so much good shit, which you just take for granted. And if you don't pay the taxes, and if nobody pays the taxes, then you're soon going to end up in a shithole like the slums of Calcutta, India, or other places I've been to. Corruption, of course, also does its part, but it's mainly about the redistribution of wealth and the investment into infrastructure and so on and so forth that kind of makes life worth living, right? That being said, I think we're going to call this a short episode because I am going to pursue my bad habit and have a quick cigarette. After all, this was the first episode of the very best podcast in the world. So therefore, I am asking you to leave a review. If you have feedback you wish to share in private, please use my email address, the very best podcast in the world at gmail.com. I'd be happy to respond. If you have encouragements, please send them. If you have positive or constructive critique, please send it. Don't be shy. I don't bite, at least during the day. And wish you a good night. Keep your hands above the blanket. Stay safe, stay sound, and I will be back with you shortly with another episode and another experience to share and hopefully bring you forward. See you soon.